Okay, this will be the first of our two documents we're going to cover in this video. These are both of our prompt materials in this week's module for our reaction paper. So the first one here, how to write a reaction paper. This one's just sort of an overview of basically the two main parts. Now, there's going to be a little bit more to it than that, as we'll see in the next document, but um, this one here, I thought it would be useful just to have an overview of the reaction paper, focuses on the perceptions and insights of writers as they closely examine what they see with their own eyes or read using their critical thinking skills, which naturally results in a response or a reaction. And that's essentially what we're going to be doing. Over the next number of classes, we'll choose topics and eventually sources, um, something to react or respond to, um, and we'll figure out how to write a paper about it. As the essay writer, you will examine the text associated with a chosen topic or issue, drawing, and this part is important. Um, I'm grinning a little bit because I'm looking forward to y'all having the experience of 101 and 102 under your belts. Drawing on your own experiences and critical thinking skills to articulate your response or reaction. As part of this response or reaction, that will ultimately constitute your reaction paper. Your instructor will, me, I don't know why I put it like that, will expect you to do two major things: summarize the text you've chosen, and respond to it or react to it. I was grinning a little bit up here because um, this paper is going to be a little bit different, um, perhaps, than typical, let's say, academic papers. You're going to be able to include a lot of yourself in this paper. I want you to. You're required to. Um, this isn't the kind of paper where you're going to want to keep an arm's distance and write with that detached sort of way over barely audible, barely visible, uh, third person point of view voice. No, I need you to be present and upfront and assertive and opinionated. We'll talk about all this. So, two major parts. These aren't the only parts, but these are the two major parts. Summary. Um, So identify the topic to be examined. I think that's a little bit self-evident. But once you get a text that is associated, representative of your topic, and particularly something that you can respond or react to, you're going to write an informative, detailed, objective summary of the text, condensing the content. And, but this is standard summary stuff. I don't need to read all of these again to you, but um, one of the things I do want to mention is a lot of times there's a tendency for us to write subjectively in our summaries, getting into things that would be much more at home in the body paragraphs of a given essay, whether it's one like this, where it's reaction and response, or analysis, or synthesis, or otherwise. Save the subjective, analytical, critical type writing. Save it for the body paragraphs. In your summary, you're basically just writing what you see, almost like you're reporting on it. We'll talk about that more in the classes to come. Hopefully, it's a lot of review and refresher when it comes to summary, but um, this is summary writing is particular and it's often challenging for these reasons. Um, it's quite rigid in that regard. And then the other second part, well, a summary could be a paragraph, a nice, long, healthy paragraph. Um, so when I say part one, try not to think of it in terms of necessarily um, equal parts in terms of volume. Even if you wrote a summary that's a page long, um, which I wouldn't be against, but I don't know that I would require you to do that. Part two, where you react to the text, that could take several pages. So just bear that in mind too. And so for the second part, then, your reaction, there's just a series of questions that are included here. These aren't the only questions that you want to consider, but do consider these. Do think of ways to respond to these. Allow them to inform how you may go about responding to additional questions that cross your mind, some that aren't here necessarily. How is the text related to problems in our world or country or community? Um, this one's very important. How is what you're reading in the text that you've chosen um, related to you and your life and everything that goes on in your reality? Certainly, emotions are fair game, but not just emotion. I mean, does your text strike you in any other way other than emotional? Certainly right about that. And here, well, we'll talk about that in a moment. I also would like you to talk about what has gone on with your understanding of your topic based on the text that you chose. This, you may, I don't know how effective it would be to consider each of these points. It wouldn't be necessary to just take a paragraph and respond to one, paragraph, respond to one. Some of these points, some of these discussions might overlap a little bit. So if you find yourself writing in ways that sort of blend these points here, that's perfectly fine too. Don't think it has to be some, strictly ordered adherence to this isn't even really the prompt. This is just to start getting you some ideas. Um, yeah, so try not to be so strict about this. Evaluate the efficacy. So this is going to, you can apply this broadly as you engage with your text. Evaluate the efficacy of every aspect of it that you want to, that stands out, that you have a reaction or a response to. That could be the the importance of the points that it's making, the accuracy of the claims or the arguments, the completeness or thoroughness of it, how it's organized or structured, or then this last point here, should say and or um, rhetoric, the rhetoricity, the extent to which the text employs and utilizes rhetoric. Um, again, this doesn't have to just be one paragraph. You could compose several paragraphs discussing the rhetoric, reacting to the rhetoric. And these are just some key points to keep in mind. We won't, a lot of this is review and just nuts and bolts stuff. Have a look at this if you want to, but we won't review each of these here, I think. Let me just take a quick glance. Yeah, we'll talk about this long point here more with our next document, which let's go ahead and get to that now. We'll minimize that. We'll go to this one. All right. Yeah, that first one was just sort of a to help orient us in a useful direction. I really think of this one as the main prompt. Um, let's see, how long is this? 3 pages long? Yeah. So let's get to it. Here's due date up here. Um, I want to start off real quickly up here, giving you a heads up when it comes to generative AI. If you find yourself in a if you have found yourself in the position of just feeding a chatbot your term paper prompts, please reconsider that with especially this assignment. This assignment is it's really going to depend largely on you and your insight and your input and your experiences and opinions. Um, and so that would probably be disastrous for a chatbot. Um, please don't do it. That could get messy. I'll just leave it at that. In addition to what our syllabus says about it, you can refresh your memory on that if you need to. This paragraph here basically is talking about the format, the sort of logistics of it. We're going to be looking for at least, I wish I could somehow illuminate this more with even with highlighting and stuff, at least 5 full pages. That doesn't mean 4 pages with one sentence on the fifth page. That doesn't include any other bells and whistles and footnotes or images or anything else you might include in those 5 pages, 5 full pages. And that is 5 full pages of, for example, MLA formatted or MLA style writing, 12 points font, double line spacing, 1 inch margins, etc. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So the topic, what do I want to say about this? All this is doing is I put this in here because I don't think you need to be doing more work than you need to do. If you find yourself writing 7, 8, 10 pages, it's not that you're going to get a bad grade or anything. In fact, I would welcome it. I'd be glad to read it. Um, it's that you may not need that much space to successfully respond to this prompt. And so I'll just give you that so you're not, you know, pumping out pages, um, burning the midnight oil, and you don't really need to. But if you want to, I encourage it. I look forward to it. The thing that I don't want to see, I don't want to see 2.5 pages. I don't want to see 3 pages. Um, this is a writing class and it's an advanced writing class. So write, please. Further with the topic, I'm going to leave it up to you what you want your topic to be. However, if you would like some help, I will be glad to lend a consult. Um, the one thing I want to say about topics that I don't think I have it anywhere else either. One of the things that trips students up with this paper is they will select a topic that they like, that they're interested in, that resonates with them, that they're passionate about. But be careful when you do that. You're supposed to be reacting to a text or responding to a text. If you pick a text that you agree with and that is preaching to your choir, you may write a bunch of paragraphs that basically say, "Oh, I agree with this. Oh, this is great, great stuff. Oh, I'm right on board with it," which is not much of a reaction or a response. There's nothing wrong with picking a source that you do agree with or that resonates with you in that way. But you're going to have to find a way to react to perhaps elements within it. Maybe inside that source, the author brings up something that's reaction producing or response producing. Or maybe you can imagine or take issue with the opposition represented by your source or corresponding to your source. But to write a paper where you're essentially agreeing with every point that your chosen text makes, that may not make for very effective reaction. So what I often encourage students to do is identify your topic, identify your issue, um, and then purposely look for the opposition or adversarial point of view. Maybe we'll take a look at how to, some ways to do that in class, but that way, if you can imagine, whatever topic you have in mind, imagine somebody writing an article in a way that every line of it you're disagreeing with. You'll have plenty to react to. You'll have plenty to respond to. You'll have plenty of rhetoric to talk about. You'll have plenty of ideas to talk about. You'll be able to apply your life and your opinions and your insights and experiences to virtually everything that author says. So it'll give you plenty to write about. It's important not just in choosing a topic, but choosing the text corresponding to your topic. What I have here then are some of the key elements of each of the sections. Now, I know that document we looked at just a few minutes ago, the previous one, um, it said there were two main parts, and that's right, the summary and then the reaction paragraphs, the body paragraphs. But I do want you to compose an introduction, and I do want you to compose a conclusion. So in your introduction, I know much of this is probably or maybe review, but just for those of you who may want a refresher, I've included some key elements of an introduction here. I want to make sure that you, in the beginning parts of your introduction, provide ample context and background um, for your topic, for the discussion that you're about to have. Any relevant exigence, urgency, crisis associated with your topic and your text. Um, all of this part of the introduction goes to help situating your reader into the discussion that you're about to have. And that's very important. Instead of just plopping down your reader, mid-thought, take your time to develop, especially these beginning parts of your introduction. Um, you'll find in time, I'm not a teacher that expects you to write, 3 lines of introduction or a half a page of introduction. Take a full page if you need it. Take more than that if you need it. Try not to constrain yourself unnecessarily. Um, right around, say, the middle part of your introduction, you're going to want to introduce your text. Why you chose it, what does it have to do with your topic? You don't go overboard here because you're still going to summarize it in a separate paragraph, but introduce your text in a way that demonstrates it's relevant, again, to your topic and to the discussion that you want to have. Um, you're going to wrap up your thesis or your introduction with your thesis statement that does all this wonderful stuff here. I won't read it all, but um, you're going to want to make a claim. You're going to want to offer some support for that claim in your thesis statement, and you're going to want it to serve you want it to be directional. You want it to serve as a roadmap, letting your reader know precisely the things that you're going to be talking about later in your body paragraphs, the ways that you intend on reacting to the text that you just introduced. Hmm? Here are some tips and reminders about summary writing. Again, we're going to talk about summary writing at some point soon. Mostly just reminding you to try and keep it objective, include enough detail to where somebody who has not read your chosen text can have a very good idea of what your text is about and is. Using appropriate authorial or attributive tags so that your reader knows that you're summarizing and not just offering your own thoughts. Sometimes it helps to use more practical transitions and signposts like chronological. Um, oops. At first the author says this, then the author said that, next the author goes on to explain that. So chronological could be useful in summary writing, and it helps remind you to remain objective in a way, I think, anyway. All right, in your reaction or body paragraphs, I'm going to pay particular attention to your topic sentences. Your topic sentences should echo your thesis statement. There should be similar language. Um, you're going to be wanting to lay out, similar to how a thesis statement operates, lay out what your body paragraph is going to be about in that topic sentence. As you move from paragraph to paragraph, those topic sentences should all be bouncing off of each other. They should all be tying back to your thesis. This goes to a concept that is often elusive to us writing these essays, and that's the idea of flow, which is really logical cohesion. It's one of the ways that helps your paper stick together and help keep your reader on track with what you're up to. In your reaction or body paragraphs, this is where you're going to address, and I use the word here, it's maybe a little aggressive, but confront the author's arguments. Um, and maybe take it even further. Imagine you're actually talking to the author. What would you say? Especially if the text that you end up choosing is something that's disagreeable or adversarial or oppositional to how you think. And you're pulling points and rhetoric and ideas from this text to confront them and to interrogate them and take issue with them. I think that would be perfect for this kind of paper. Yeah, try not to think of rhetoric, that you're gonna handle that in one brief paragraph toward the end of your paper. You feel free, whatever, if you find something in the text about the authors, one of the points they raise, or an idea, or something they're up to, there's usually going to be rhetoric corresponding to it. Maybe take it as a personal challenge. Each time you identify something that you want to talk about in your chosen text, see if there's any corresponding rhetoric that you could also talk about concurrently. That would be make for an interesting strategy as you go from paragraph to paragraph. Of course, as you identify aspects of your chosen text that you want to confront or interrogate, um, relating them perhaps to corresponding rhetoric from your chosen text. Um, One way of sort of rounding out a paragraph like that would be to take the opportunity to reflect your academic sort of writing against how it resonates with you, how it meets you personally. Offer your opinion, offer your insight, editorialize a little bit. Um, that the when you compose academically and then follow it up with some personal here, that's a in my opinion, that's a terrific augment. It brings this otherwise sort of bland and even contrived academic sort of writing. It brings it to life when you inject yourself into it. So I really look forward to these parts. And if you have, a half a page to a page of summary, let's say that may be too much. Let's say a page of introduction. So with these two, you might be close to 2 pages, page and a half, 2 pages. Um, how are you going to get to five? You'll want to have a number of body paragraphs. And if you're taking on one idea, one aspect of your chosen text per paragraph, which you should be doing, try not to mush your discussion of multiple points together in an itty bitty little paragraph. You want to give your ideas some room to breathe and to operate and to fully develop. I don't know, 6, 7 body paragraphs. There's no rule for it. Um, Identify a number of elements, a number of aspects of your chosen text that you want to take issue with, that you want to react to and respond to. Um, and culminating in a concluding paragraph. Your conclusion can do a lot of the stuff that typical or traditional conclusions do. Providing a little recap of what you've done so far, finding a way to sort of reiterate or remind your reader of your main point or your, in parentheses, thesis statement, um, illuminating any significance you end up with. But one of the things that's often difficult to do is finding a way to apply the work that you just did in a different way. Um, the caution always is, you don't want to introduce a new paper in your conclusion. But I think it's good practice anyway. You could practice it. See if you can take wherever you end up, whatever significance you derive, see if you can take a step beyond where you end. And does that significance apply a bit more broadly than just here in the discussion that you had? Can you take it and transpose it onto any other aspect of, I don't know, our culture, our society, what's going on, whatever, in whatever way relates to your topic. Um, See if you can apply it a bit, broaden it out a little bit, so that the significance isn't limited just simply to the discussion that you had only. That's a bit of a challenging way to conclude a paper. Yep. Yes, please do use the work that you do, the scaffolding work, the the blog work, the things that we work on in class. Please do use that um, to inform and to develop how you write this paper. And please, you're going to be writing about personal stuff, personal opinions, personal points of view, experiences, perhaps. Um, Use I, use I statements. Again, I know that a lot of times we've been taught to sort of resist this or avoid it, but no, not here, not for this paper, not for our class. I want to hear from you. I want to know I'm hearing from you. Your voice is very important to me. I hope it's important to you, or if it's not, I hope it will become important to you. That's a major aim of our class together. What do I want to say here? Not a whole lot, except for we've got plenty of time to work on this paper. I'm a procrastinator, just as anybody else is. Um, so I know what it means to put things off. Allow me to encourage you now with that in mind. Let's not squander this time. Let's get to work. Let's begin drafting. Let's begin throwing around ideas. We'll do a lot of work to that end, to those ends, with our weekly assignments leading up to this due date, um, February 15th. But be diligent and be consistent, even if it's just a little bit at a time. And we'll get this done, get this knocked out. I think this video took a little longer than I wanted it to, but hopefully now we're at least all on the same page. If you got any questions, of course, I'll either see you on Blackboard or you're always free to email me or come by office hours. All right, we'll see you.